probably shouldn't be surprised when you get more crime. When you enact dumb policies, imagine this, you get bad results. I mean, think about what happened in the last year and a half in almost every major urban area. Baltimore cut their police department $22 million. Boston, $12 million. Minneapolis cut theirs $8 million. New York City cut their police department $1 billion. Philadelphia, $33 million cut. Portland, $15 million cut. Seattle, $69 million. Chicago, $80 million, and on it goes. And guess what? In every single one of those urban areas, crime went up. Imagine that. Imagine that. Yeah, I don't know if we need any more imagination from Democrats. What we need is more cops on the street, not disparaging cops who bust their tail, put on the uniform, go protect our neighborhoods every night. Less imagination, more cops on the street, more prosecutors who will actually put bad guys in jail, and maybe just a stop to all the crazy policies. One of our colleagues introduced a bill, No Money Bail Act, just getting rid of it. But I don't think Democrats want to do the common sense thing. They want to do what that video just talked about. They want to defund the police. They've said it time and time again. Representative Jones, the department must be dismantled and policing reimagined. Representative Jayapal, we need to shift to significant resources from law enforcement to other places. Representative Omar, we need to completely dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department. Representative Bush, just 1 week ago, said we should, the same night that the president said they should fund the police, Representative Bush said, no, we should defund the police. And Chairman Nadler himself said just a year and a half ago, there should be substantial cuts to the police budget. That's what they've said. That makes no sense. The American people get it. All this reimagination from Democrats has been a disaster in every single policy area. Energy, crime, inflation, the border, you name it. Americans want safe streets, they want affordable gas, and they want freedom. Democrats have given us record crime, record inflation, and Dr. Fauci. So I hope today's hearing will allow the Judiciary Committee, in particular the Subcommittee on Crime, to begin to focus back in on common sense policies that work for the American families and the American people. That's what I hope is the result of this hearing. With that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
Does the gentleman from Ohio seek recognition?
Just strike the last word, Mr. Chairman. So the previous speaker just talked about we're trying to hijack the hearing and why do we focus on school boards? Because it's so darn important. Never forget, when the Attorney General sat in front of this committee, the very first sentence in his memorandum, we asked him about this. We said, here's what his memorandum says. In recent months, there's been a disturbing spike in harassment, intimidation, threats of violence against school administrators, board members, teachers, and staff. We asked him, what was the evidence for you making the very first sentence in your memo? What was the evidence for that? What did he say? He said the School Board Association letter. The letter that they've now apologized for and regret ever having sent it. And here's what that letter said. Sometimes you got to look at the facts. You got to look at what they said. The National School Board Association requests a joint expedited review by the Departments of Justice, Education, and Homeland Security. Interesting, 2 of those agencies are in this legislation, along with the appropriate training, coordination, investigation, enforcement mechanisms from the FBI, including any technical assistance necessary from state and local coordination with its National Security Branch and Counterterrorism Division. That's what this bill does. Exactly what the School Boards Association asked to be done is what this legislation does. And it was this letter that the Attorney General used as the basis for his memorandum, which they've apologized for and said this wasn't accurate. Here's what this letter said, too. It talked about four acts of violence they cite in this letter. One of them was the Loudoun County situation, which our colleague, Mr. Roy, has talked about, which was justified, frankly. Those were in 14,000 school boards around the country, and one of them was one where the parent was justifiably upset, right, Mr. Roy? So that's why we're focusing on this, and all we're asking is for the Attorney General of the United States to rescind that memo, take it back. And we're asking the chairman to have him come in and testify and answer some questions we have, and frankly a lot of parents around the country have, because we now know there's a threat tag associated with some parents' names across the country. That's what this is about. This is about the facts. So the very document that they've apologized for, the letter that started this thing, this whole process, that they've apologized for and taken back, That language is exactly what this bill does. Somehow that's hijacking a hearing. I think that's doing what the people that I represent want me to do. So the gentleman from Florida, his comments were right on target earlier. This is not just about giving more authority to the Justice Department to go after parents. This is doing exactly what the School Board Association asked them to do. That's why we don't want to vote for this thing. That's why this is wrong. And I hope this thing doesn't pass. Would yield to the
gentleman yield for a question.
Yield to the gentleman from North Carolina.
And the School Board Association letter itself invoked the terminology domestic terrorism, didn't it?
Sure did.
So doesn't that beg the question? What is it that the majority means when they're talking about domestic terrorism and turning the power of federal law enforcement against domestic terrorism? Do they mean school parents of school children, or do they mean something else? I yield back to the gentleman.
I think a great point, and even more specific, they referenced the Patriot Act. In fact, I would ask for unanimous consent to enter into the record former Chairman Sensenbrenner's piece in the Wall Street Journal, where he says the Patriot Act was never intended to go after moms and dads, never intended to go after. It was for dealing with foreign terrorists trying to do harm to our country. I would ask unanimous consent that be entered into the record. And with that, I would yield back the balance of my time.
Without objection, the gentleman yields back.